Hello everyone, my name is Lowko and welcome to another StarCraft 2 video. What I got for you today is a top-of-the-line match of professional Terran versus Zerg. Spawning here in the bottom right-hand corner of Catalyst, I'm playing with the red Terran SCVs. He's from Germany, he's the highest ranked Terran player in Europe right now. Of course, I am talking about none other than HeRoMaRiNE. And his opponent spawning all the way in the top left-hand corner. He's playing with the blue Zerg drones. He's all the way from Finland and he goes by the name of Serral. Now Serral, for those of you unfamiliar, has had the highest MMR in StarCraft 2 of all time as of about the last 6 months or so. As a matter of fact, just a couple of days ago, Serral set an all-time high as far as MMR goes of 7,425. Now, for those of you unfamiliar, MMR is essentially a number that indicates how good a player is. So he set an all-time record just a couple of days ago of 7.425k. Right? Now, I did the math just a few days ago when he got that record as well. And get this. If you break into Grandmaster League on the North American server for the very first time, you are closer in MMR to Gold League than you are to Serral. So let me repeat that, right? If you break into Grandmaster League on the North American server for the very first time, MMR-wise, you are closer to Gold League 2 than you are to Serral, which is just absolutely mind-boggling. Serral is like 300 or like close to 400 points ahead of the number 2 on the European ladder as well as far as MMR goes. It's absolutely insane because essentially when you are at that level, you need to maintain like, I believe it's like 85% win rate in order to not go down on the MMR counts. And obviously, if you're playing at that level, you're only gonna go up against the very best in the world as well. So it's kind of insane, you know, how strong Serral truly is. Now, there is this exclusive club in StarCraft 2 as far as MMR goes. People love to talk about the 7,000 MMR club, the 7k club. And another player who is indeed part of that as of right now is indeed HeRoMaRiNE. I just looked it up. He's currently sitting at 7,004 points as far as MMR goes. Now, fun story. I actually ended up playing against HeRoMaRiNE just a couple of days ago over at the live stream. HeRoMaRiNE obviously, you know, usually wouldn't face me on his main account. He was actually off playing on another account. He was smurfing on one of his second accounts where he was apparently, according to him, playing fun strategies. Now, I managed to survive for like 15 minutes or so. I really do want to call it survival though, because there's no denying that that HeRoMaRiNE is a very strong player. I tried to hold on, I wasn't really even focused on winning so much, but then all of a sudden, like 15 minutes into the game, you know, he showed up with like 12 battle cruisers and Lowko just slowly but surely ended up dying. But still, I managed to stay alive against HeRoMaRiNE, right? You know, pretty happy about that. He was actually streaming right at that same time as well, and the entire chat just immediately exploded. It's like, Lowko, you're playing HeRoMaRiNE, and I was like, oh god. I'm up against the greatest Terran player in Europe right now. There is no way I'm gonna be able to, you know, last for any longer than like 4 minutes. But no, not all too disappointed in my performance there. But anyways, enough fanboying on both of these players. Let's have a look at what they're doing right now. So HeRoMaRiNE, interestingly enough, went for a very quick third command center. He actually even delayed the orbital command, if I'm not mistaken, here in the natural. Now the Reaper currently in the main base, trying to be a bit of a nuisance. Now, of course, Serral is not going to lose a drone to a Reaper. Are you kidding me? That's one of the things Serral actually does really well. He doesn't really lose any workers in the early game unless, you know, he really messes up. Interestingly enough, though, HeRoMaRiNE is still going for that 1-1-1 style. So we see one barracks, one factory, and one starport. Now, obviously, this is all a little bit delayed. Serral should be able to get a glimpse right here of the starport, and then also that little green light inside of that tech lab. But he will not know about the fact that there is already, well, maybe he will. Now, I was going to say, I do think that Marine should kill it in time, but he doesn't know right now about the fact that there is a third command center already finishing up. And I really like this position that HeRoMaRiNE is in, because at this point, he's got a very strong economy, and Serral, he is one of those players that doesn't really mind, who doesn't really mind playing this much more macro-focused style, right? Serral isn't looking like he's going to get aggressive anytime soon. So this is still going to be a pretty harassment-focused strategy here from our Terran player. So he's going for Hellions, and obviously he still has that Reaper from the early game as well. But he hasn't actually cancelled Cloak, if I'm not mistaken. I think No, did he just cancel it? Oh, he did actually just cancel it. Interestingly enough, he did decide to switch it out. So he decided to cancel the cloaking field right after the Banshee came out and switched around the add-ons. Obviously, this will already force the Spore Crawlers anyway. So nice little move there actually by our Terran player, knowing that he already dealt the damage that cloak was going to provide. And now he's even getting himself a whole lot of those creep tumors as well. So the creep on all sides has pretty much been halted, or at the very least contained here for the time being. Nice little bit of poking back and forth though. Once again, getting another one of those creep tumors. HeRoMaRiNE now showing that he doesn't have cloak and he will be able to pick up, Serral that is, he will be able to pick up that Banshee with ease. Banshee achieving a whole lot of nothing. That does mean that the creep spread can continue on the right hand side of the map as well. But Serral looks like he's just simply gonna start transitioning towards his very comfortable mid game. So if there's one point where Serral truly shines, it's gonna be that mid to late game. I mean the early game as well, to be honest. He doesn't really mess up. He doesn't really have any particular weaknesses, which is what makes him such a scary player. But I would say like the mid to late game is where he's really strong. He's not scared to play that macro focus style. He's already going up to that very, very quick centrifugal hooks upgrade, which is of course the roly-poly for the banelings. And so far he's really just been sitting on a couple of zerglings and a couple of banelings as well, or a couple of queens here as well. Now finally getting a few banes. This is actually quite interesting. A lot of players against the 1-1-1 style. So against one barracks, against one factory, and then one starport as well. They love going for the roach warren and the quick lair, and really focus on a couple of roaches to try and keep those Hellions and then also the potential mech switch at bay. But apparently though, he rushed out the centrifugal hooks and is now only just now starting up the 1-1 research, whereas on the other side of the map, HeRoMaRiNE is already just about to finish his. 2 medevacs though, filled with Marines, are now going to drop off here at the 4th base location. At the same time, Zerglings trying to make their way across the map. Hellions, though, in a great position, will likely be able to deflect that. But Lynx and Banes, likewise, in the top right-hand corner, managed to shoo away those Marines. And both players really just testing the waters, trying to see if either of them really went a little bit too greedy. Like, it's little moves, like, for example, having these Hellions, you know, not die in the earlier part of the game. Like, I would probably have happened if I was the Terran player here, and really just simply keeping them alive to defend that base. And that means that you can once again clean up a lot of those tumors a little while later. Now, a few of those Marines apparently did not get evac. They did end up dying there on the creep, but once again, HeRoMaRiNE doing a great job to simply continuing that slowdown here of the creep spread as well. Hydralisk then is now indeed researching the Muscular Augments upgrade. We're likely going to be seeing Group Spines in just a little bit as well. A couple of Banes apparently decided to head on over towards the 3rd base location. HeRoMaRiNE though, just a little bit too good for that. He will end up losing just a handful of SCVs, but the defense so far has been really good. And look at little tiny moves like this, right? Not actually sieging up the tanks. Now hold that thought for just a little bit. Now the matter of fact will indeed pick up those Marines once again. But little moves like not sieging up the tanks when you don't need to. If you would have had these tanks sieged up earlier when the Zerglings first came in, the collateral damage of the splash would have actually killed those units very quickly. Now HeRoMaRiNE completing that wall off over here as well. The Banes are going to start rolling forward, but I think that this is going to be a very nice position here for our Terran player to just simply defend against this with relative ease. Now, I did get the kill actually there on that command center, which is nicely done. Now, HeRoMaRiNE going to continue onwards with the harassment, stimming forward with a whole lot of Marines here in the top right-hand corner. At the same time, a few Marines here trying to engage inside of the center of the map as well. One hero, Hydralisk, as well as the Queen, trying to get rid of as many of those medevacs as they can. But so far, both players really just, you know, nipping at each other's ankles, right? Like, there's really not that much damage that was dealt here on either side, which does mean that we are shortly going to be transitioning towards much higher tier armies and at the very least much bigger forces for both sides. So Hydra ranged upgrade just about to finish. 2-2 started immediately, and now also that transition towards the Hive in just a bit. Once again though, HeRoMaRiNE are looking very strong here as far as the engineering bay upgrades go. I mean, +2/+2 is going to finish up in a little bit. Medevac still trying to provide a bit of a counterattack, I suppose, on the right-hand side of the map. Siege tanks now actually sieging up inside of that fog of war, and at the same time, while this is going on, right, the triple medevac drop is really starting to go to town here on all of those drones. And while the Zerg army is indeed distracted in the top right-hand corner, the Marines stim forward and they try to go after that base. Still, very, very safe play so far by HeRoMaRiNE, though, not really taking any unnecessary risks. He's finishing up 2-2 right at this point, so I wouldn't mind it at all if he goes for an all-out assault at this point, and I do think that that is exactly what he's got in mind for us. transitioning towards more and more barracks, immediately queuing up the 3-3 research here as well, so he's going to be able to continue that for a little while longer. Now, 2 medevacs do get picked off here relatively easily for Serral, but Serral is now definitely in a little bit of trouble. It all comes down to the engagement. Here we go, Lynx and Banes immediately rolling forward. Hydra's providing so much support damage as well. Serral, all of a sudden, manages to force the majority of this army backwards as well, but he doesn't overextend. Right? He doesn't overextend. At the same time, a Marine group was indeed dropped off in the top right-hand corner. They do get 4 of those drones for their troubles as well. But Serral manages to hold on there with one of the most scary timing attacks that Terran players can execute. Marines, siege tanks, and medevacs and +2/+2 really do make it very, very scary for a Zerg player to hold on. Now, Hive will be finishing up in just a little bit. 2-2 will also be finishing up in just a bit here for our Zerg player. So I do think that Hive transition with 3-3 and Adrenal Glands is going to be absolutely phenomenal at this point. Now, Zerglings managed to find a little bit of a run by here, and this is what Serral does. He usually tries to just sort of hold on and then transition towards that late game army. Already 3 Vipers, or I think even 4 Vipers. No, actually, I think that's 3 Vipers here in total. Yeah, 3 Vipers were queued up, and while that 4th base is now also secured here in the center of the map by HeRoMaRinE, Serral is now close to maxing out, and he's starting up a very, very scary amount of units. Lings and Banes, once again, apparently is the name of the game. Very small amount of Hydras here, relatively speaking, but here we go. Siege tanks not sieged up just yet. HeRoMaRinE busy microing elsewhere, and Serral shuts that push down for the second time relatively easily. Alright, so now we're sitting at that Hive tech here for the Zerg. Terran is just about to finish up 3-3 as well. We don't see a transition to, for example, Ghost just yet. So that does mean HeRoMaRinE will be sitting on this much more Marine-based army once again. He's actually now getting Marauders, interestingly enough. Normally we see Terran players at this point transitioning towards Ghost, but he did get himself a couple of Liberators already. So even though the Ultra transition is only just now underway, HeRoMaRinE is already ready to deal with those Ultras anyway. And I think the Marauders are obviously going to be a great help as well, in particular once the next patch does go live. A lot of Banelings once again coming up though. HeRoMaRinE trying to bait this Zerg player to get off creep, almost inviting him to move onwards, but here are the Vipers. They're going to be able to abduct all of those units with relative ease as well. One of the Liberators immediately does get killed. The Bane still rolling forward though, and even though this is all off creep, there is just simply so much Zerg. Great splitting though by our Terran player, really deflecting a lot of those Banelings as well. Serral already sending the majority of them back home as well, falling back to the safety of that planetary fortress. I would love to see the security right now of the bottom left-hand corner here for HeRoMaRinE as well, though. He's really going to start running out of resources in the main natural and third here in just a little bit. That's the one downside of Mules. Serral just simply sitting on all of the bases that he can on this side of the map, and he is definitely looking very strong here as far as that economy goes. Serral even now already assuming that the base in the bottom left-hand corner would be taken right at this point in time, it looks like, judging by this small group of Zerglings and Banelings that are now moving out. Liberator immediately being shoot back. One Queen shot one of the spines. Couple of Lings now though, realizing that there's nothing in the bottom left hand corner, decide to go after units here in the third base instead. And while these should be deflected relatively easily, he's just simply gonna once again hide them somewhere else so he can go back in a little while later. Liberator now inside of that main base, sieging up on top of that Spore Crawler. Serral showing us why he is so dominant, right? Like, he doesn't really take damage, and that's the scary part. Like, he's sitting on 80 plus workers here for so long, and while he has lost quite a few here, right? Like all things considered, it's all pretty tame, right? It's nothing critical, and this has been over the course of like 14 minutes, right? Like, that's nothing too crazy whatsoever. He can just remake them, and on top of that, he's been sitting on 80 plus drones for a very substantial amount of time, just slowly building up that ultimate Zerg death bowl. Right, getting to that point where you can just simply throw away your units and then remax immediately. Now, I love this though. HeRoMaRinE not giving up by any stretch of the imagination. Now transitioning towards the Ghost instead. And Ghost, of course, are great against both Vipers as well as Ultralisk. EMP and Snipe, absolutely critical. Siege tanks still very helpful here at dealing with this damage. Actually, the Ultras now caught at a bit of a weird angle. They are going to be eventually making their way around all of those units as well. Now, great blinding clouds, though, on top of all of those siege tanks. They will indeed get rid of the majority of them as well, and Serral once again decides to back up. This is another one of those keys in his gameplay where he really does not commit to an attack until he really knows that he can win. right? Look at the bank. He's really going to start building up that resource count right now, just slowly chipping away at HeRoMaRiNE. And what he's essentially doing right now is creating like a soft contain on 4 bases. So he checks all of the potential expansions here that a Terran player can go for, and he just continuously run-bys and tries to slow down the 5th base, knowing that HeRoMaRiNE, roughly 15 minutes into the game, will start running low on resources. So he's got scouts on all the potential extra bases, and while he does get deflected every time as well, HeRoMaRiNE isn't expanding. Now he is sniping very nicely though, and this is still a very scary push to make here for the Zerg player, and of course he decides to back up. In the meantime, a small hit squad of Zerglings and then 1 Ultra as well decide to try and head towards maybe the natural location here instead. Once again, trying to micro at several different angles at once. A couple of Ghosts do get picked off for practically free, and the Ultras and Zerglings are now flooding into the natural. At the same time though, the majority of the Terran force is now pushing forward. Ghost hungrily looking at these Ultralisks, trying to get those snipes off as well, but now that they are on creep and Zerg is microing in several different angles at once, HeRoMaRiNE's army once again gets deflected. And keep in mind, while this is all going on, right, and that's the scariest part, Zerg is happily sitting on all of those bases. He's now even got 88 workers. Serral sitting on 88 workers. That's significantly more than you normally want as a Zerg, but that's just because he's throwing away so many units and he's just replenishing that army almost immediately, knowing fully well that as long as he prevents this Terran player from expanding, he's going to be in a great spot. Now HeRoMaRiNE though, not giving up by any stretch. He still has a pretty large army here as well. As a matter of fact, army supply wise, he's still looking very solid. Siege tanks though, still sieging up the Banes once again, looking to get those connections on all of these bio units, and in particular those Ghosts. The majority of the Ultralisks though did get picked off there, and while the Hydras in the back are cleaning up the rest of the Liberators and the majority of the Terran army here as well, HeRoMaRiNE does get a very favorable trade there. But the thing is, Serral immediately replenishes it with 70 plus Zerglings. And while HeRoMaRiNE got the best trade that he probably could have at that point, he does indeed end up losing this game. I think this is a great example of what Serral does best and why players are scared to play against him. He doesn't do anything super special, right? He doesn't really do anything super special. He plays a super macro-focused game. He doesn't really overextend very quickly at all. He just simply pushes your army back and prevents you from expanding. And eventually, right, like if we go back into this game for just a little bit, you can see the amount of resources that are remaining here for the Terran player. Basically, everything is running low. So effectively, Serral, by containing his opponent here, forced the Terran player to sit just really on a single mining base, whereas all of these resources are still available for the Zerg player instead. So it's one of the scariest things to deal with, because if you don't deal damage with your continuous dropping, if you are the Terran player at this point in the game, right, and you're not really capable of pushing that momentum forward, it's what Maru does best, right? Maru just harasses and harasses and harasses, and eventually he gets a little bit of wiggle room to just continue the push non-stop. But if you don't deal that damage, all of a sudden you're in the situation that HeRoMaRiNE was in this game, and you find yourself with your back up against the wall because you cannot expand anywhere because Zerg just simply doesn't allow it. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. If you did, make sure you hit that like button down below, and if you want to see more, you know what to do. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and maybe even click the little bell icon so you get notifications as soon as I upload future videos as well. For those of you unfamiliar, I of course upload 7 days a week on this YouTube channel, or at the very least I try to. I think I've got about probably 99% success rate with uploading every single day. And of course, I also live stream over at Twitch from 2 to 8 p.m. Monday through Saturday. But for now, I want to thank you for watching. Have an amazing day. Do not forget to smile, alright? And I'll see you in the next one.